I've trained 1,200.
I just wanted to hit record before I forgot. Sorry.
Okay. Do I do something here? Oh, I just say got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Just got it. Anybody that's a co-host. Okay, so what do you have show and tell, Doris?
This is a pattern I bought a couple weeks ago from Anna Elizabeth Drager.
Oh, pretty. Are those the parpuka thingies mixed
Yes.
with duos?
Yep.
Oh, that's pretty.
I don't like it clear. I'm going to redo it with all opaque crystals because it's hard to see this way.
Well, I think it would be pretty as an ornament that way,
That's what it is.
you know, but the light would shine through and
Yeah.
reflect well.
It's supposed to be two-sided that poofs out a little in the middle.
Oh, okay.
And so I just made it one-sided because I wasn't thrilled with the color. So I'll do it over again.
Sounds good. All right, let's see, Jan, do you have announcements for us?
Yeah, this is information that I just sent out in an email. It's in my president's message. One is if you can recruit new members, we're having a summer membership drive. So anybody that joins in June or July will be entered into a drawing. We have two Toho mini kits, the 2023 version. So good chance of getting a Toho mini kit. Next year is our 35th anniversary as a bead society, which is pretty amazing. So we're looking to recruit a committee to put together a 35th anniversary party. We had a lovely 30th anniversary party, and hopefully we can have a lovely 35th anniversary party. So contact me if you're interested in being part of that committee. It should be fun to plan. And then we're also looking for local meeting sites. We'd like to meet periodically and actually get together instead of just Zoom. We would still stream those meetings. And we're looking for people to help us find that, a local site. I posted in my president's message and in the blog on the website what we're looking for. So again, contact me if you would like to be part of that committee. And I think
one thing to say, Jan, I'll bring that screen on Wednesday and you can decide if that'll work for what we do.
Okay, sounds good. That's it for me. Michelle.
Okay, well, I thought Beth would be here, but she hasn't answered my text, so maybe she's not feeling well. But Beth Arndt from Beating Heart in South Dakota will be our Let's Bead Live teacher for our June 17th meeting. We are doing tubular peyote around a needle case. So since we have, use so many needles, it's always fun to decorate your needle case. She even has the wonderful little ender caps that say size 11 or size 12 or size 10. So that way you can look at your needle case and know what size needles are in there without having to do the search. So she has kits as well available, and all the information will be on the website very soon. She's just finishing all the details to get to me. But if you're interested in a kit, you can contact me and I'll get you to her right away. Otherwise, she's in South Dakota, so she can get the kits shipped out. Too sweet. And so that will be on June 17th, Saturday from 1 until 3 o'clock. And we're really excited. Beth is getting back into teaching after a few strokes and a few other health issues. So she's really excited to be back. And so we're hoping that you can join us for this fun event. Other than that, let's see, Hannah, do you have any announcements?
No, but why don't we talk briefly about our July meeting, Pam, just so people know what to expect.
Yeah, so Pam Smith is a copper artist. She does torch coloring the copper. So she heats it up with a blowtorch and it makes all these beautiful, pretty colors and patterns. on the copper cutout. She has all these antique die cutouts and other shapes. And so then, but she's been doing this wonderful thing, and at the Renaissance Fair for over 30 years, she's had a booth. She actually bought Bob's old booth from the fair. And she also has a booth at the Ohio Renaissance Fair. She does markets in Wisconsin and New Orleans and Ohio and Minnesota all year long. So that's all she does is markets and Renaissance fairs. So a completely different way of having a business platform that is a lot more fun than some other types of things because they're festival events. And so she'll talk to us and tell us all about how she makes her wonderful stuff, but also about how an alternative way to run your business. Maybe you really want to get into more of these fun events. We did the winter market as well. At the European Winter Market at the Depot. So I've worked with her for the last 5 years as one of her helpers in her booth. And it's a lot of fun because, like I said, you're at the Renaissance Fair, you're at the European markets, you're at, the farmers markets, and it's a whole different feeling. And so people have a whole different perspective. So I know it's a different kind of working, but so it should be a whole lot of fun hearing a different perspective and learning all about copper, torch coloring copper. And then we're hoping to be beading in the garden for Let's Bead Live in July. Chris Allen, so we'll be in Rochester doing a really fun art garden project for July. Yes, Becky.
Okay, that we still need people who will demonstrate at the state fair. There are a couple of hours where we only have one person, and we should be better represented than that. You get a free ticket into the fair, and fair participants get to in a drawing for Toho kits again. It's August 30th, and Marlene Morris is who you contact. Also, we are again lucky enough to get the display case that's next to the office in the Creative Arts Building. We had it last year and we got it again. So we want to be really well represented. So hopefully we can keep having it. And it's not something that's judged. It's just show people what you can do with beads. And the theme this year is beads is our common language. Again, you can contact Marlene or myself to put your piece in.
And when is the deadline for submissions for it?
Okay, we haven't set up the deadlines yet.
But
But a couple of weeks before the fair starts, we need them.
wasn't it August 30th that we're doing the
Well,
setup?
that's when we have the demo, but that's not the.
Oh, that's
the
right.
day That
It's probably a week before that.
We'll need it like for sure by the 10th of August.
Because we have to have all the neck forms and have display forms and figure all that out and figure out how
Yep.
much space for the layout. So
Yep.
if you're planning on submitting something, at least let us know by the end of July, and we need
Yep.
you by August 10th. Sounds like a great deal.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other announcements? Well, then I think we will sport our Hannah. Would you introduce where let me see.
Would
I'm
be
gonna
honored
go get
to. I'd
Barb-
love
I'm
to
gonna go get
introduce
Barb so
both
she can film.
Louis. Okay,
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
You're gonna
she's
go get
coming in
Barb?
now.
Okay, good.
yeah, I'd love to introduce both Barb and Louis. And Louis will be doing a curved lampwork borosilicate bead on his torch today. And Barb will be filming. And Louis, his full bio is on our website. at the Upper Midwest Bead Society in the calendar page, but let me give you a slightly shorter version. He's had a very wonderful and storied life. So Lewis was born in Roswell, New Mexico, and he was part of a military family. So by the time he was 11, he'd already lived in Texas and Morocco and California, Nova Scotia and Canada, and in Goose Bay. And when he was in Goose Bay at the age of 11, he taught himself to eat fire and juggle and throw knives and do all kinds of various magic and circus tricks that sort of play into his persona as Louis, the glass blower. So in 1963, he moved to Albuquerque, and that's where he is now. But before he was there, settled there permanently, he joined the U.S. Air Force and worked in the emergency room for the last 3 years of active duty as a physician's assistant. And this becomes important for his glass blowing sort of background. But as a side note, he was part of the ground medical crew for Apollo for the second lunar landing. So in 1972, he got an old book on scientific glass blowing from a local library and taught himself how to make small glass figurines using the Bunsen burners in the medical lab. So once again, the whole medical thing becomes important for the glass blowing for him. He approached the Rebus brothers at Walt Disney World and worked for them for 3 months under a transition program from the Air Force. And after he left the Air Force, he went to Busch Gardens to try to get a job as a lamp worker, but they didn't have vacancies. So he became a juggler and a fire eater for them. And he worked with all kinds of people in the circus. And then he moved to Florida and actually had his own business, which he named Crystal Myths, before he finally moved back to Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is where he lives today. So in '87, King Juan Carlos of Spain was presented with one of Lewis's limited edition eagle dancers. And you'll see these guys when we get to, I hope he's got some. So we hope that he's got some to show you, but he makes these fabulous eagle dancers in these Hopi glass pieces. So one of them was presented to King Juan Carlos of Spain, and then state of New Mexico used a limited edition eagle dancer as an inaugural gift to George Bush, and a red-tail hawk dancer as an inaugural gift to President Clinton. Lewis has produced all kinds of glass blowing videos, and actually those are one of the things that when I first started glass blowing, I looked at all of his videos and learned so much from him. And he had his own bead show, which was the best bead show, and it really was. That's what it was called, and it also was the best bead show down in Albuquerque. He was a founding member of the International Society of Glass Bead Makers, and he's a member of the Glass Art Society. He's been presented with the Hall of Flame Award for the ISGB. And in 2011, he married my friend Barb Svetlik, who at that point was at the Glass Dragons in Florida, and she moved to Albuquerque at that time. So there is Barb, and Barb is such a fabulous glass blower too. She makes these wonderful pieces that I hope that Lewis shows to us later, that are violins that have all these fabulous flowers on them. And you know what? She also writes really well. How many books have you written now, Barbara? It's like a dozen or so, isn't it?
I think
More
18,
than that.
18
books, and she's a fabulous novelist. So those are my dear friends who I'm going to turn over to, and take it away, Lewis.
Okay, now I do indeed. I hit a button here to move this where it changes the, okay, here I see it.
You are now spotlighted
There.
for everybody, so everybody sees just you.
There you go.
Okay. Does that look good?
It looks good. It looks
Okay.
great.
I'm going to be making a curved bead like this one. The color I'm going to be using is a rod, and this is out of stock now from 20 years ago. It's called Indigo Luster, and it's a very high silver glass. You can see the tip of this. It's got a shimmer on it. When this is encased and clear, it'll turn this color, and the part that isn't cased will have this baby poop look. So this is a standard bead mandrel. I'm going to start off right now by dipping a couple mandrels. I'm going to make this bead long. It'll just be a straight long bead on a mandrel right here. And then I already have in the oven preheating for the past couple hours a duplicate of a straight bead that I will curve then. So the bead release I use is called Dirty Louie's bead release. It's something I formulated about 20 years ago, and ABR Technology, they produce it. I don't get a kickback or royalty or anything. I just wanted my picture on the bottle. This is water soluble, and my mandrels, because I'm using, these are 1/8 inch diameter. Most bead makers working soft glass are doing a 3/32. You roll it around, you take it out, and then just leave that off to the side and let it air dry, just like so. Now, I've already gotten the ones that had been dried a couple hours ago. Now I'll take my finger, and this takes off any micro burrs that would be on there, makes it really smooth. So the inside of the bead is going to be clean and easy for that to remove. I've got a bead wire in here that is at 1100 degrees. I'm going to put this second one in that I'd already dipped just as a backup in case something goes crazy and I have a problem with it. I will slow this down some. I work incredibly fast. And I'm not sure if you can yell out a question if one's there or whatever. The torch I'm working on is a Mirage by Glass Torch Technology. This is the second one they ever made. The first one was the prototype, and I worked at it at a scientific glass conference and fell in love with it. And they said they're not in production yet, but I taught Willie and Wally Horn, who are Glass Torch Technology, how to work glass like in '97 or so. I'm preheating my rod here a little bit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wind around the mandrel until I get a bead that's 5 or 6 inches long. And I'm just preheating this so that it'll go rather evenly. Now, because this rod was already in the oven, I can pretty much come straight out here and it already goes glowing red. Barb is filming this through a lens that's didymium, and it's a shielding agent for the spectral range of molten sodium. When you look at a glass floor and you see the big yellow flare from the torch, that's the sodium in the glass for when you're working with glass. Now, if you look at my right thumb is doing pretty much all the work on laying down this bead. I'm moving it from that. We go front, back, so that you're heating the glass rod up as fast as you can. Now, I'm not really worried about this not being perfectly even. I'm just laying down a base that will kind of self-even on its
On
own.
both of them then.
Okay. So now I'm going to add a little bit more glass to the right end.
No.
I'm going to heat that up. I have a
This
bead.
one is the one that if you do it on both, you get really bad.
Am I getting feedback? So I'm going to clean up and finish the right end.
And then now I'm gonna go back and clean up the left end. So what I'm actually doing right now is finishing the very last part of the bead. But now it's the time for me to do this section of it. Now that's all the color I'm gonna be needing. Now what I'm gonna be doing is taking a 4mm rod of clear and wiping down 3 or 4 places the length of this. And where the clear makes contact with the indigo luster, it will case it and it will give a iridized effect to the glass under the clear. It will also do a thing called, there's a process called crystallization, not crystallization, but crystallization that has to do with crystal growth through time and temperature in glass. The more I work this glass rod up, the more crystals will grow on the surface, and it will change the matrix of how it reflects light and color. So where I'm laying this clear down now on these strips, those areas below will pretty much remain intact. And anything that isn't covered in the clear will kind of fade out into a phase shift to a less pleasant looking color. A lot of people refer to it as baby poop. Now, as I heat these in, the glass, you don't want to marver it in or push it while it's molten. You actually only going to do that on the left end and the right end, like I'm going to do right now. Now you can see I'm melting this in. There's a didymium filter that's letting you look into the flame. Now my left side is melted. Now I'm going to clean it up a little bit. So that's pretty much finished for the left side. Now I'm going to go back over to the right side and finish that. It takes probably about a 30-40 seconds for the heat to penetrate so that I can go in and melt that glass that I just laid on. Here comes the storm. The trees are, I've got a big picture window in front of my studio here onto the yard. And you can see when the winds kick in. Okay, now I'm going to keep the whole thing hot. I'm going to kick up the heat a little bit. I've got a foot pedal that I just hit on. I'm going to give myself more heat to melt the clear onto the indigo luster. I don't want to barber it in or push it in. I want it to melt into it. And this will actually push the color of the clear into the color and widen the clear so that it covers more of the entire bead. So now that first layer is laid in. Now I'm going to lay another layer of clear directly on top of where I had just laid that clear. I'm just going to add more to the depth of it. The whole idea of this bead is that it creates an illusion of depth that's way deeper than you would think. I'm doing this with 4mm rod. In a couple of minutes, when I get into melting this together in, then I will switch to 6mm rod as these whites become whiter. So now again, I'm going to clean up the left side a little bit more again. the bead release I'm using is water soluble. And it also holds up very, very well. If you're doing a transparent bead, this is a great one to have where it doesn't leave film wash on the inside, so you can't see through it. Now I'm going to hit my foot switch, kick back in the larger flame. Now, after all these clear lines melt in, then I'll go to 6 millimeters twice, and you can see that the size of the bead is starting to get built up. The diameter is getting bigger. I may do a little bit of basic marbling on this just to try and even it out before I go to 6 millimeters to case. I'm actually holding my marber kind of horizontal to the flame and then rolling my bead toward me as I'm pushing the marber away. Kind of the same way you used to play, what was it, four square with a big ball and you're flipping. Okay, so now I've got a 6 millimeter rod, went back to a smaller flame. So now this 6 millimeter rod, I'm going to lay 6 on top of this. And probably in about 3 or 4 minutes, this bead will actually be done. I might keep it smaller just so that it doesn't take up a lot of time, because I'll be roughly doing the same thing that I'm doing right now. There's a tiny bit of a spin that's starting on this. I'm going to put a little kitty dot right there to anchor the bead. Because this bead, when it comes off, I will be grinding and polishing a little bit on the end before I flatten it or before I curve it. Before I do the marbling on the far right side, I'm actually going to push down to those ends. And again, I'm throwing a rotating spot there. Now the right side's melting in nicely. This shouldn't come out really good because it's a demo piece and I'm fitting to do that. I'm going to let this melt in, then I'm going to do the final shaping on it. The glass melts at 1454 degrees Fahrenheit. The borosilicate does. The flame's in about 2500 degrees. It's propane and oxygen. And when I'm done with the demo, when I'm giving you a tour of the studio and all, I'll show you my oxygen system that I bought about a year, 2 or 3 months ago from High Volume Oxygen, and it's a lifesaver. I have been paying upwards of $350 a month for oxygen, And that was with liquid paint. And they were always bleeding off or making sounds or having a problem. But my liquid, my high volume system I'm using now, it will be paid in another 8 or 9 months. And then I will have this as an asset. All the oxygen I threw away for the last 51 years, I have nothing to show for it. So an oxygen system is a real good investment. So you can see how those lines have fattened up. When I work on the left side. Now I'm going to move a little to the right. All right. You can see, even through the flame, how the clear has spread out and it's left very little left of the glass that didn't get cased over. Then when I'm done here, I will. When I'm done here, I'll let this thing strike and you can actually see how the clear is going to show up and add depth to the bead. And now we can focus in on the bead. And as it cools, you'll see the indigo luster start to strike, and you're going to see it cooling closer on the two ends. There's a nice deep core temperature there. And you'll also notice that there will be kind of a silvery sheen, and that's the high silver content of the glass. As this thing starts to strike, you can see how it looks pretty cool. Now I'm going to remove any of the extra film wax that might still be on it, just so that it doesn't end up in my oven. Got a lot of color and character to it. Now I'm going to get 2 6mm rods. And what I'm going to do with these is this is the hole on the bead. After this is made, I'm going to heat up this 6mm rod till it has an 8mm ball on it. And the one in the oven there that's hot, I'm going to cap and just tag cold seal on one side and then also the other. And I'm going to have these 2 8mm balls on the end of this bead. And I found out through doing it poorly, probably in 3 or 4 minutes, a sound might kick in, and it's my oxygen generator. When you hear the sound, it's not like aircraft coming over or whatever. So I'm getting my first 8mm here. The first of these things I did straight. I figured, wow, that looked really pretty cool if it was curved. So I just heated up a bead that was straight. I put it in the oven, and then I curved it by putting it over with tweezers and then bending it up. And it curved just nice and dandy. But what it did, it collapsed on itself on the air in the middle, so the bead no longer had a hole going through it. So here's how I corrected that problem. Now I'm picking up, here's the bead that's at 1100 degrees. I'm going to heat that up to temp. Yes, this is the cold seal. It's not meant to be there forever, just more temporarily. It's hot and it's tacky, it's thickness. But by doing it this way, I am trapping the air on the inside. Like all those years that I spent in college, to be an engineering student, and then ended up being a medic in the Air Force instead and not graduating. I learned enough in physics to know that if I trap the air in there, right now the air inside is heating up along with this entire bead. So when I go to do a curve on this bead now, the whole thing will stay full of air and will not collapse. And you can be incredibly controlled. I can do it just a little bit, I can do a lot. And I can bring it right back to straight. So now I'm gonna just make sure that's nice and fire polished. I think that's just pleasant looking. And I'm just holding that. I don't really bridge a lot of pieces. You see all the pipe guys with 15 or 20 rods bridging things all over the place. I really don't do a lot of bridging. I just get it done, do it right, and I got one shot to weld something together cleanly. And that's just kind of old school. So now I'm hoping that when I welded these things together, or tack them in, that one of them is less than the other. So now I've got to wait till all the color leaves the inside, and I'm going to tap this. One little spot of fire polish. Okay, this one came off. And now that one knocked right off. And there is sometimes when I knock that off, it'll leave, and it did it this time, it will leave a little teeny, a thin veneer at the hole. So I go in with a tungsten stick. I redefine the hole. But when I knocked that off, there was a veneer of a window. And you can see how cool this is. It's got the same. This is all indigo left of my favorite one. Now I'm going to hold on to this one here, knock that one off, change my hand around. And we're good on this one. So this is pretty much the finished bead. And it only takes, you know, like half an hour and 50 years to make it. And thank you to my
Meeting, right?
You're in a meeting, right?
Well, it's half over already. I can eat.
Let me get this. Thank you, Barb. I'm taking off the didymium filter. There we
Louis,
go.
Louis, we don't have any questions yet, but Sandra says that she thinks your process is magical, and Maggie says, wowzers.
I've just been doing this longer than most people been alive in the glass world. I'll show you my studio, and what I'm going to do here in a minute or so, I'm going to put this back onto looking away from me. And then I'll give you a tour of it. And there's a lot of stuff in my studio, you know, well, there's not many things that I don't want people to see, but there's some fun stuff here. So I'm going to change this around. Okay, I'm going to take off my glasses and my headband. I wear my sweatband when I'm doing something that's serious. If I'm just farting around, you know, I don't really need it. Okay, I do a lot of competitions. When I'm in a flame off, and flame offs are like this thing here, the shirt that I'm wearing. This was the Albuquerque flame off in 2002. It was the world's largest of the flame offs, the first one that was a magical one. I had done other ones, but I put this sign up about don't leave your weeping, crying, no talent loser lamp workers near my workstation. I actually call out the young kids and tell them they don't know shit. I've been around more than they've been alive working glass, and I'm in it for the game. So I'm gonna hit a button here and start cycling down my oven. So that'll go through an 8-hour cool down. If you have any questions while I'm running my mouth, just feel free to scream out. Hannah, did you have something else while I'm doing this before I go more around into the studio?
Oh, nope, not yet, but I'll let you know.
Okay, so this is just my wall of tools. Some everybody has, you know, this is diamond shears. This is cup shears of Jim Moore. These are Carlo Dona, a caliper. If you're doing something on a bead and you want to do a roll up like you see the stuff Lucio Babacco does, and you'll have something laid down with a seam that's flat and bas relief, and then you have a bead and you want to roll that up onto a bead. This little thing right here shows you that if I do a setup of a bunch of little things from here to here, and then I go to the other end of this, that's the diameter I need of the bead so I can roll it up and it starts from one end to the other. I hope that makes sense. This is some of my Indian dancers, just the 8 most popular ones. My main oven here, this is the one I did with Paragon, and this one has been in commercials probably for 10 years for Paragon ovens in Glass Art Magazine, The Flow, Glassline Magazine, a bunch of them. This is a bigger receiving oven down here. I've been in this studio since 1986. It's a 16-foot clear story. In 1986, 2 friends of mine built this. I was their, they kept calling me bitch, but I was just their helper. And we built it in 11 days, the whole building. And then it took me 6 months to insulate it and put the sheetrock in and then go to work. So this is Barb's workstation. She's got a Paragon purple oven. She's got the diademium sheet here that she just loves. I found like the last one in the world from Dave Martin at ABR. She has down here a generator. That's not an oxy concentrator. That's an old school generator that's maybe 17, 18 years old, but she doesn't need an oxygen source other than that. It works great. And she's working on a Lynx. She mostly works with Bullseye and Moretti soft glass. I mostly work borosilicate. My glass melts around 1500 degrees. Hers melts in, I don't know, 10 or 1100. This is my glass room. There's a lot of glass in here people would kill me for. The original Glasstronics that everybody wants, the green and the blue Glasstronics. There's just a bunch of stuff here. I'm constantly working. The clear story, I've got a bunch of crap up there. Barb painted the dragons. She's a great artist. We're going to go back into the back side of the studio here. The studio is 40 feet by 16 feet. And this is my sandblaster. I do a lot of burl wood. I get them mostly finished, but the saw and the drill press are for that. Here's just a big table of crap because I'm a guy. This is a flat lap for grinding and polishing with different grits on this. This is my glass saw. And this is the best thing in the world. If you're new into glass and you know you're going to do it forever and you're going to go through oxy, this thing here, you're looking at, you know, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 for whatever size you want. But this is run by that oxygen concentrator and this one is the last backup. But it gives you a lot of free oxy. I mean, this will just save me money left and right. Now, here's the coolest room in the house. This is Barb's studio, and it was designed as an art studio here. We built the whole studio in '86. In 2000, we added this room, and Barb's She's into giraffes. That's a drawing my daughter did of me. There's a bunch of beads and stuff here, just because we still had some. These are some things that Barb's working on. She gets a lot of old violins. Every now and then she'll find one of these cheap China ones, but she gets violins, banjos, ukuleles, small instruments. Generally, they're broken and don't work, and she uses those as a template or as a palette to put her glass flowers on and create artwork. But she's just totally really good at so many things. And this room is where she does stuff with some glass. These are some of Barb's glass flowers that are on these little mirrors things. Here's a piece back here. There's a dog that I did that also goes up in here, but this is an old, simple little guitar, but Barb did all these little geese on it. Here's an old mandolin that she's doing. This is a steampunk piece. You might understand that I'm totally in out of Barb. I will take this thing outside. Any questions about in here, or you're here and he's fine?
I have a question. So-
Okay.
Okay, you made a bead and you put it in the kiln, and then you showed us how to make the bead. Do you have to fire the bead before you curve it?
Yeah, because you can look in here, and here's
Okay.
into the oven. Up there at the top is the bead I just made. I
Okay.
showed you the long, the one on the
Yep.
floor is the one that one had been a long bead just laying on the oven on the wall in there for about 2 hours to heat it up. But all these pieces right now, see with the temperature, there's a 1022. It was
Yeah.
1100 when I finished, and it'll drop down about 70 or 80 degrees per hour over about an 8-hour period. And it's the same thing how you would temper metal, you anneal glass.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're leaving the studio. So my commute from the house to the studio is about 20 feet or so. This is kind of coming into the gallery area. I've done shows in New Mexico since 1981, when I moved back here from the Boston area. And I've done so many shows, and I have a huge collector base that we put in the gallery here as a way of always having to work out. I'm going to go through it nice and slow. When we get to the bead trays, a couple of these I'm going to take out into sunlight, although a lot of the sunlight has been eaten up by the storm that's coming in. These beads here are all luminescent. When I hit those with a black light, they have a glow in them. So next time you're all going out to a rave and there's a black light, you want to put something together with this. But I'm going to go real slowly here so you can kind of get a look at some of the stuff here. I've been doing fantasy and sci-fi. I named my business Crystal Myths because that's all I did the first few years when I was working glass. These are dragons. I got a sick mind. This is the unicorn family goes to lunch, and it's a unicorn, 2 unicorns getting eaten by a dragon. They are lunch. And then all these flowers are a collaboration of Barb and myself. And wait till we get into the next room and you can see the 50 flowers that Barb made as a project, 1 flower of each state's flower. Here's the little dancing guy from Spaceballs. Hello, my baby. Wizards, Chimera, wizards. Here's a found object that used to be a clock that Barb went and put a whole bunch of flowers on, and I added the 2 clear balls here. Here's a piece in burl wood with a cheetah chasing an ibex. Here is a tree house full of bird houses. That's Barb's work, and I did the tree. Barb did the tree houses. This little fairy piece here, there's little dichroic balls on it. Not the fairy doesn't have dichroic balls, but you get the idea. But I had to say it. I like doing little things with like people that are in abstract ways. There's a mermaid. When Barb and I were dating, we would go back and forth, and we met in New Orleans, and she would fly from Fort Lauderdale. I would fly from Albuquerque, and then we would visit there. Here's a really cool piece, the aristocratic rabbit. His handkerchief says it all. Just a little bit of stuff in there. I studied with Lucio Babacco 3 times, once in Murano in his gallery there, or in his studio, but he influenced how I do the human form. Here's just a variety of stuff here. Here are 4 samurai pieces. I started studying Shotokan karate in 1964 and got my black belt in 69. And I was asked by Morio Toyoshima to teach in Kobe in 2005. And so I gave a lecture for 90 minutes, 100% in Japanese, and totally blew them away. I love working in clear glass. All these sculptures here are clear, and they're sweet. If you make a mistake, you can't hide it in clear. Here are the Indian dancers that I'm mostly known for. I started doing these in 1981, and I've made them for a lot of dignitaries, just a lot of regular people. That's a Hamas dancer. This is a Mudhead. Both of those are Hopi dancers. This is an assassin. He's actually a sharpshooter. He's called Tatangaya, and he is the most feared warrior. And he is able to kill somebody at 100 yards with accuracy with an arrow. A Mescalero mountain spirit dancer. Hamas, a Hamas owl dancer. Here's eagle dancer. This is a plains design. Here's a buffalo dancer. There's a plains design. The sun face is a Tewa or Hopi. And here's another eagle dancer. Here's a couple pieces. This one has elephants or a variety of different things. Barb did all the stuff. I just did the tree. This one's got a lot of Barb's work on it with these fish and the starfish and all that stuff. They're a lot of fun things. I do a lot of marble holders. This octopus here is designed to hold some big marbles. These are like 2.5 inches or so, but a lot of people have marbles and big marble collections. So I do these octopus marble holders. This snake here holds 2 marbles, a couple of goblets. Here's more goblets with Indian dancers. Goblets in color. This piece with devils and angels with the devil spinning at the top. There's going to be a pipe that goes in the middle of this where this is just a housing to hold it. There's a lot of fused pieces that people are doing. I don't know if people still do peyote stitch, where you have the leather backing and then you put something cool there and then you put all your stitching around it. I have all these things. Here's a bunch of very old beads. This is a Bodum bead. This is a twisted Nueva Cadiz from 1610. These are Greek and Roman. This is a Kifa bead from Afghanistan. These are, that's a 7-layer chevron, 1600. And these were given to me by David Orr, who gave $3 million worth of beads to the Bead Museum in Prescott. And he had the provenance on the shipwrecks that these came out of. So they know that that was a Nuevo Cadiz from 1610, because it came from a boat that sank in 1610. So it's actually pre-1610. I've got a black light here. I do a lot of stuff with, this is old uranium glass. And somebody gave me 50 pieces for their uranium had broken. They gave me all the pieces and I cut it up for people to do wire wrapping. I'm not the best paperweight maker in the world, but I make a fair amount of them. I haven't for years. This is the Queen of Bugs. My daughter Jennifer did the little dichroic bugs on the bottom of it. A lot of these have insects, lizards, praying mantis and little bugs. This has Barb's flowers on the inside. Some more pieces there. Now we get over here into these pieces here. These are all, you hit them with a black light, and these are iridizing. These beads here are sets. And all of these sets are like 3 pieces. These are borosilicate glass that have been sandblasted, and then Barb painted on them with flowers and leaves. And then it was a fire on glass.
Wow.
Iridot with titanium dioxide in an isopropyl solution. Now I'm going to open my side door and hopefully there's enough sun out there a little bit. I want to take this one thing into sunlight. This tray. Are you still following me, or is this boring? Or
No, it's so cool.
okay. Now can you see these have a shimmer to them?
Oh, wow, yeah, they really come alive in the sun.
No, and this is from the B tray, but all of these have been on the left have been coated with titanium dioxide and then fired. And it's done, well, it's done real time. These pieces here, I might have to take it back in. It's actually starting to rain. There's the storms I was telling you about.
Wow.
Okay. But I'm going to show you these here are beads that have opals inside, or these are actually pendants.
They're so cool.
But you can see this has what's called a coin. It's a flat, maybe 10 millimeter cross on that one. This
And
one
then
just
there's
has, that's
little
another
opals
coin.
inside?
Yeah, these are man-made Gilson opal that'll take 1700 degrees so they can be encapsulated in borosilicate.
Gotcha.
And a lot of people use opals a variety of different ways. And I put them down a tube. I condense the tube around it so you end up with an opal in your little ball. Now this piece has been ground and polished and then hit with the titanium dioxide again.
Before you
here's-
put that away, Louis, pick up the bead that has the 2, are they dolphins on each side?
Oh,
And
yeah.
Show that to the camera. Yeah, there it is. So Nanita had asked if you ever put anything like critters or flowers on the bead. So I really wanted her to see that.
There's these 2 that are small double dolphin beads, but
Right.
I've done sculptures that I've done. I've probably over 120,000 sculptures, and beads 20 or 30,000. Here's some pipes that I make. I don't do the lined tubing. I buy it from a company called Colorado Color Company. I go back over to these beads, and these are real similar to what I just showed you. I plan to do this outside in the sun, but the sun ain't there. And so you can see the depth that goes into these beads.
So
also there's a
Maggie would
very-
like,
Now what?
Maggie would like to know whether or not it's possible to buy from your Instagram or your Facebook page.
Well,
So,
What you do is contact me on Facebook. That's kind of why this tray with these beads has A on it. This one has B, and that one has D, and that one has C. So if you see something you like, contact me, Instagram or whatever. And what I'll do is I'll send you a little video like this, and then also some still shots. And then you show me what you like, and then I'll pick it up in my hand and do a video in sunlight so you can get a perfect look at it. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
that's great,
Okay,
thank you. Lynn says that she is in awe of your imagination and talent, and Sandra says she loves all the fantasy creations and the wonderful studio that's full of creative energy.
Well, I'm going to show you my eagle out here now, but I'll have to walk up onto the roof. So we built the studio. Oh yeah, let me do a big shot from a distance. The yard keeps me mellow so I can do all this stuff. But the studio is 16 foot tall, a clear story, and 40 feet long. And 4 years ago, I added the stairs just because I'm getting old and it'd be stupid to keep going up and down the stairs. But 30 years ago, I made an eagle for my mom. And when my mom died, I got the eagle back. I didn't do good eagles, I never have, but that's what this little guy is. And he looks over the yard, protects the yard. Now also, I don't know if you can see in here what I've done on this. These are marbles that are embedded in the top of the staircase so that as the sun goes down, it has color drops through it. I'll see if there's not a lot of sun out there right now. You can see some of it here.
Holy cow, look at that sky.
Yeah, we're gonna get it again. So this is all what pretty much keeps me mellow. That and we're a legal state. I'm just putting my crops in this year. But this apricot, 2 different grapevines, peaches, plums, Barb's Meyer lemon that we move in and out. This is a red maple, honeysuckle, pear, tomatoes, apples, another apple, a huge grapevine. And I'll show you, Barb's birthday was yesterday. And I'll show you what I did 3 days ago, like a good husband should. That's a huge monster cherry tree. I built this. I'm real proud of the yard. It keeps me mellow and all that sort of stuff. But I built this 3 days ago for Barb for her birthday. Put in another honeysuckle. Any questions?
Wow. So what's your favorite thing to make?
Well, after having done 1,000 unicorns, dragons, lizards, it's not them. Art Deco pieces in human form. One of the times when we met, and and again, back here while I'm running my mouth, I'll show you what Barb paints. This last month, she's been painting this back wall. Did I mention she's a talented lady?
He is very talented
So
and
she
he's
did that
very
like
sweet.
last month or so. But one of the times when we flew in and met in New Orleans and spent a few decadent days together, yeah, I said that. There was a retrospective art show on Urte, 1920s fashion designer. And we went in there. Barb bought me a book on Art Deco, the Modern Masters. And it has everybody that did a great bronze in the 1920s or that era. So we're back into that's the studio. And I'll head back in. Oh, these are the posters. From the very beginning, I made sure that the exhibitors in my show were the reason to come to the show. So from day one, probably for the first 4 or 5 years, I had a poster going into each show that had every exhibitor's work on it. The last time I did the Best Bead Show, and that's the poster for the original Best Bead Show. The last time I did this show, there were 120 lamp workers, glass blowers. There were 15 fusers, cast glass, pâte de verre, and also furnace workers. But I kind of brought a lot of glass blowers into Tucson from my event there. And it was a community that everybody still goes back to. Now, remember that time we're hanging out at Best Bead and this and that. But it kind of set a standard, and I'm real proud of it. But any questions or anything specific?
We have a couple comments. First of all, Sandra said she loves your eagle, the one up looking over your yard. And Bead
It's
Lady
not
says,
done really well. It's
well,
old
it
style.
looks beautiful.
Now, and originally I did it as an old German eagle. It originally, first time I made it, it had 2 heads on it, like
Oh, wow.
ancient eagles in Germany. And then my mom didn't like it, and I removed it. It's been reworked a few times, but and the texturing is done with this. These are leather tools, and that's why I did the texturing on the body of the eagles.
Bead Lady says, happy birthday, Barb, from all of us. Nanita says, wonderful pieces. Kathy says, thank you. She loves your home and workshop. Nanita says that she loves the murals that Barb has done. And Bee Lady says, this presentation has been awesome. And Jan
My
says,
God,
both of you guys have amazing work.
okay, well, wait, I almost stabbed my own baby in the head here, talking about barbed wire. This is it. Let me turn this around. Prepare to get blown away.
Oh,
Wow.
right.
Oh, my gosh.
And
Look
I
at
will
how
zoom in
beautiful.
slowly. Now, this is some of Barb's work. She was doing soft glass beads, pretty much straight out with flowers, maybe 15, 16, 17 years ago. Pam Duggar showed her how to do some simple stuff. And then Barb went on her own. Then Barb ran into me and started doing borosilicate. But Barb by herself is known mostly, probably a lot of the violins that she gets and puts the flowers on them. Like all of these things, they're on steel wires so that they're not dinky and go. If you did this with a glass thread as the stem, they're going to just snap looking at it. And here's another one of her violin pieces. These are, I'm going to kind of go slow down, and this here prints out what all these are. A lot of time we took this to Glasscraft and everybody said, oh, can I buy that one or that one? This is just a set that is 50 of the state flowers, one for each state. And we hope that at some point this will end up in a museum. We just don't know the process to go about doing it.
It is so cool.
And oh, this will give you a size.
It's the Minnesota lady slipper.
Is that it?
Nope, nope.
Minnesota is the lady.
Oh, the lady slipper, Barb. Barb would know.
It is not in that one. Go down, 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 over. There it is.
There
Guys,
it
can you
is,
see
right
it?
there. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, it's the pink one. It's the pink and white one in that
Yeah,
picture.
right
You see it?
Oh,
Yep. Yeah, you guys all saw
And
it.
she finished the whole series was for Maine. It was that pine cone. And
What's
she did the
the
pine cone the way it's
flower?
supposed to be done, not as like what we would see as a pine cone at grandma's house.
It's beautiful.
And
What's
then
the
here's one of
flower
her,
in
this-
New Mexico?
now what?
What's the state flower of New Mexico?
Is it a yucca, Barb?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a yucca flower.
Okay.
I can't see it from here. Here's one of Barb's finished necklaces,
Pretty.
a piece that Barb did with one of my beads on it. And I think that's pretty much about it.
I love that you guys do collaborative work. When you do that together, who does what first?
Who does what first? Barb will tell me ask me what I need to make. And I mean, sometimes she asks and sometimes I do. It kind of just varies. But if, and also I asked Hannah and Rochelle if I'll let you guys know that any of these things that are priced, they're priced with my retail price on them. And anybody that's a member of your society, if you contact me and you're interested in wanting to get something, let me know that you're a society member and I can give you at least 20% off right off the top. And then depending on some pieces, I can give you a better discount or if you want to buy more or whatever.
So
But-
cool. Is Barb's work also available to be seen or
Oh, yeah.
or purchased?
All the only we have of Barb's here are these two violins. And I'm not even sure what the prices are on those. And all the flowers here, let me turn this light on again. Yeah, Barb and I are both here to sell glass, just so that the pandemic didn't let us run around the world like we would like to. But all the flowers here are Barb.
They're
I
so.
saw-
I bet
So
they when the sun comes through your studio, I bet it just glows.
In the morning, the sun comes right here. And I'll show you a problem I had immediately when building this studio and I went to work. up there. That is east, and the sun would come in right into my eyes between, say, 8:30 and 9:30 in the morning, maybe for 3 or 4 months of the year. So I did that stupid thing, was little bits of stained glass just glued on another window and popped it up there as a colorful way of getting the sun out of my eyes.
I love it.
But is this kind of what you're expecting?
Oh my
I mean,
God,
We love it.
so
Jan
inspired.
would- It is inspiring. Jan would like to know how you started with your lamp work.
Let's see, let me close the door here. I started when I was active duty military as a corpsman during the Vietnam War. I worked in an emergency room, and I'd always been interested in glass. And in 1972, I went to the library on the base and got a book, a scientific manual on blowing glass by Hamstafar and Stang. It's an old 1940s scientific glass blowing manual, and it was from a guy that was left-handed working on a crossfire. So I looked at that enough that I could convince myself that I can make pieces. And so I convinced myself I could do this on a Bunsen burner that was in the hospital laboratory. There's a full medical unit that had its own lab, and they did some formulation there, but they had hundreds of 4mm stirring rods for storing chemicals. And those started disappearing as soon as I found I had a Bunsen burner. I started teaching myself to work glass. And then I moved from the Bunsen burner there to a Burns-O-Matic torch that would be real close to a little weed burner thing. It looks a lot like a MAP gas, bead making torch, that type of a thing. And I would sit down on the floor with my legs crossed and this thing in between, hoping it didn't burn my junk or anything. And I started teaching myself that. So then I get into 1972, I started doing this. In 1973, in the summer, I'm starting to look forward to January of 74, getting out of the military. And they tell me there's a transition program. And it's mostly aimed at, like, if you were loading bombs or doing something, there's not a civilian equivalent job. And as a corpsman, I was basically an unlicensed doctor. I could work on anybody medically or military related, and they couldn't sue you. I was a really good medic. I've done anything a doctor would have done, delivered babies, I've sutured, I've cast, I've held a human heart, closed heart or open heart massage. The medical stuff I learned, I applied to all sorts of stuff. I've sewn myself up 3 or 4 times. I've sewn my daughter up twice. Every time I go to a glass festival, I bring a suture set because glass guys always are getting screwed up. But in the summer of 73, I approached the Rivas brothers in Orlando because I was stationed in Cocoa Beach, told them that if they trained me, they could have me for free for 3 full months and that I could already do these things here. So they jumped on it. So from October of 73 to January of 74, I worked at Rivas brothers and in a backlot of Walt Disney World. I was the only one that spoke English as a primary language. There were 16 glass blowers in a row and 2 butt-to-butt 40-foot trailers. So you had 2 trailers, 40 feet, 80-foot run, and they had a 6-pack of oxygen that had all the regulators into it that fed into a manifold that ran 16 national 3A blowpipes. And 3A blowpipes have a decibel about 105, 110. They're loud. So all the guys that are the old school guys like me, the hearing is the first thing that went. And so I learned enough there in the 3 months, and I'll show you the pieces that I did. I have my last 3 that I did there. And this is the old school stuff that was woven only in clear. And then there were a variety of people in the back that would paint it. That's a crab. I did 1,000 crabs after they showed me how to do that crab. And then I moved to the teapot. I did 1,000 of those teapots. And if you notice that the crab's body, if you double it, it becomes the teapot. And then you take the teapot and then you double it, and then it becomes the bird bath. You had 2 birds on. So 1,000 of that, and then 1,000 of that, and then 1,000 of that. And I just did that over and over and over and over. And then after 3 months of working at Disney, I finished up with them. I came back and rotated out of the military. The day I left the military, I was a civilian in Cocoa Beach, Florida, living with my girlfriend. And then I went over to Tampa and went to Busch Gardens because I was a Walt Disney trained glassblower. You know, who cared if I only did these few things? So I go into the corporate office of Busch Gardens in Tampa and tell them I'd like to be a glassblower here, blah, blah, blah. They didn't have one. I showed them what I had, which was, you know, nothing. And they said, so you got how many months of experience? You got no insurance, no display, and this and that. And this guy's just telling me, Louis, you're just no good, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it's a corporate little cubicle. And I hear the phone in the next cubicle ring. And the guy said, oh, he quit. Like, damn. And we need the fire eater too. And I heard fire eater. So I asked the guy I'm talking with, can I go talk to that guy? And I didn't even wait for his answer. I got up and I went 4 feet into the next cubicle. And the guy said, I heard you needing a fire eater. He says, I was here to be a glass blower, but that's not open. But I also juggle and eat fire and throw knives. And I had Malayan throwing knives. And the next day I was working at Busch Gardens, $14 an hour in 1974 with 6 tattooed belly dancers, 6 of them with tattoos in 1974. I was a sweet little innocent kid with a nicely rounded head. You know, I was great. I was just Louis. And I'll actually let you know how the dirty Louis here at my flame off. My mom was talking with somebody. I was up in the front, and Lauren Stump was there. And some guy came in, his hands were all greasy, and he said, oh, I need something to clean up my hands. They're all dirty. And my mom, bless her, she looked right at that kid and then looked at me and says, that's not dirty. He's dirty. That dirty Louis. He would come in from playing. You would bathe him, and then he would get up and run out and play in the mud. And this, he was just always a dirty Louis. And she said this in front of Lauren Stump. And Lauren just ran with it. He grabbed the microphone to announce things within the flame off. There was a bead show and the flame off all at once. And he just said, hey, Louis's mom just called him Dirty Louis. And so that's how I got the name Dirty Louis. And, but for me, it works. So, I don't know. I go on tangents. If you ask me a question and I see a squirrel or something shiny, it's all lost. I don't know what I'm saying. So any other questions or anything?
Oh my gosh. So what's your favorite thing to make now?
Oh,
You've gone at everything under the sun. So what do you like?
The human form. I like men and women figures, and that's mostly the inspiration of watching Lucio, the way he does the human form. And even before then, I had hired Emilio Santini and had him teach at my shows before. I mean, that's the beauty of running a glass art show in the mid 90s. And you could hire people, Roger Paramore, Emilio Santini, Lauren Stump, you know, serious people. You'd have them come and give lectures to your show or the glassblowers in it. But I like the human form best now. I like collaborating with Barb. I'm still working 3 or 4 hours every day on the torch and enjoying the house and everything. I don't have, I got a big show coming up here in November. There's Jerry Lynn Alderman. She probably gets 50 pieces of mine every month, and with the Comic-Cons that she does all around the country. And there's 2 old school guys in the Midwest that do carnivals and state fairs and, you know, things like that. I mean, real old school stuff. And there's maybe 2 or 3 people I do that. So I'm busy wholesaling. I sell a lot of pipes to a guy in New York and a couple other places. And I don't do great pipes, but they sell well, and I do them with critters on them. Like you throw a dragon on it and nobody else has a pipe with a dragon, you know, that's affordable. So I'm still loving working with glass. The last March 15th, the Ides of March was my glass birthday, and it was 51 years on the torch.
Wow.
And I'm just starting to figure it out. So
So what is your advice to anybody who wanted to get into glass blowing?
You're too late. There's too many fools out there. No, first, every student that I've had 1,200 people, more than that, right across the table from me. And in '93, when I did my first bead making video, as soon as that video came out, there had already been a video out by Alice Zimmerman on doing soft glass beads. And the first words out of her mouth when she goes on camera is, "I hope you can see what I'm doing because I didn't have any lights to put on." And it's a dark, dark, dark video. So I had been pestering a guy in Santa Fe that was a furnace worker for probably 5 years, all through the mid '80s. He's a furnace worker named Charlie Miner. He's been there forever. And I said, "Man, I want to get in the furnace. I want to work." And he said, "Go away, kid. You bother me, you know, this and that." And he says, I said, "Well, look what I do this. I make an Indian. I made a piece for the King of Spain." He says, "Go away, kid. You bother me." And then in 1992, and 2 weeks before Christmas, I get a call from Charlie Miner. He said, hi, Lewis, how you doing?" I said, "Fine." He says, "What's going on?" He said, "Well, you know, you might not bother me as much as you usually bother me if you can make a bead." And so I just lied straight out of my teeth. I'd made a few beads, you know, here and there, but nothing serious. And he says, "No, I've got two of my best friends in the world, and they want to learn how to make beads. And so I thought of you. So if you can teach them how to make beads, then I can give you 6 hours in the furnace, or I'll give you 6 hours worth of time with me instructing you or working with you." And I'm thinking, holy shit, that's pretty good. And so I hung up the phone, and then he says, "Oh yeah, but they're going to be in town in like 10 days. And this is like December 15th. So I said, "Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, I can do this." And so I hung up the phone with Charlie. I called a couple of people I knew that actually made soft glass beads. I borrowed a couple of miner burners. I taught myself how to make beads in soft glass that week. These two guys show up. I show them how to make beads. And in my mind, I looked at it as a continuation of working glass that I'd done since the mid 1970s. And this is 92 going into Christmas. So I said, "I've already worked glass, 20 or 16 years. So I can do this." And so I showed them how to make beads, and they loved it. And then I got to play in the furnace with Charlie Miner. And then a couple other people heard that I taught bead making. So then they asked and they asked. So I get into the first week of January, and there's people that are saying, "Hey, can you teach me some beads? Can you teach me some beads?" And then I get a call from my accountant. I had become incorporated because I was doing so well with all my other work. And this is 92. This is just selling glass through 40 galleries. I'd been selling through 40 galleries since like 1982 or 83 when I started with the Indian dancers. And I was still doing 60, 70 hours a week, wholesaling it all out. I was just dead constantly. And so I'm making all these pieces and everything. And my accountant calls me up and said, "Well, I just want to let you know you're going to have $2,500 due January 25th, and it's for your taxes." And I said, "What?" And he says, "No, there's taxes if you're incorporated. You get these things then you get other taxes April 15th. So I said, "So wait, I need $2,500 here in the next 3 weeks." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." So I hung up the phone with him, and I'm thinking about this and that. And I went back to Judy Garland and all this stuff. I said, "Well, I'm going to have to put on a show." And I was always kind of a performer and had a flair for things. So I went to my bank and I said, "Hey, I want to do a video on making soft glass beads." And I had a plan, the whole thing, proposal drafted out. And, and the guy looked at it, and I've been with this bank, First National Bank, for like 8 years. And the guy said, "No, this wouldn't do much for us," and everything like this. And they just flat out turned me down. I didn't have access to $2,500 because I was like a glass blower, the pizza feeds, but not a glass blower. So I went to another bank that a friend of mine had, or that was with, and I went to them and I told them my predicament, and they said, "Oh, we can really help you out, but the first thing you have to do is leave that bank. If you leave that bank, we can give you $16,000 as a loan to put together your instructional video making glass beads. but you have to use this production company that is a member of our bank. You have to use this advertising company that's a member of our bank for doing some of the promotional stuff, which mostly was Glassline magazine. And they said, but first, cancel that bank, join ours, we'll give you 16,000 and boom. And so that's kind of how it started. So the whole thing is I didn't tell them that, hey, I got taxes due. I just say, I want to make a video. So they gave me the 16,000, I paid my taxes, and I make my video. I did it in 2 or 3 days, or 2 or 3 weeks. The tail end of January comes around in 1992, this would be 92. I was thinking of doing Quartzsite Gem Fair in Quartzsite, Arizona. And I had all my videos done. I go out there and I set up and I'm selling sculptures. I'm selling some beads. I give a lot of lessons on right there. I sold about 30 videotapes even before I had the sleeve that had the picture of what was in it. And Kevin O'Grady had joined me out there and a couple of other people. Mike Franz and Patty Franz came by and they ran into me there on their way to Tucson. So I said, hey, we got this thing we do in Tucson, the Gem Fair thing, Gem and Mineral Show. Why don't you come on out and follow me? So I went with them the first year and I played around there. And I came back to Quartzsite in 94. In 95, I went and did the whole bead show with Ava Motherwell. And I did really well. The only thing is I had done stuff with Mike Franz at the show at the Pueblo that he was in. And I knew how there were like 60 different events in Tucson with 250,000 people a day. All these shows opening and closing. And there's this sweet 6-week period in the middle. And Ava's show was in that period. She was charging $5 to get in the door. And there was not one show in Tucson that charged admission. All the buyers came in mad as hell because every other show they went to didn't charge admission, but Ava wanted her $5. It pissed off all the buyers. It pissed off a lot of the sellers. And by the end of that show, there were 30 people that came to me as a group and said, Louis, we know you've promoted some things in the past, but if you put on a bead show in Tucson next year to compete directly with Ava, I'll sign up with you. And 30 people did that right off the bat. So coming back from that show, the whole bead show, I had all these people that said, we like what you want to do. And so I came back. I told my wife what I wanted to do, and we put a second mortgage on the house. The ad campaign was $16,000. This is after a couple of years after I'd already gotten my video done and everything like this. And because I refinanced the house, I had money to get an ad campaign. Robert Liu, 3 pages in Ornament magazine, had a picture of each exhibitor's bead, each exhibitor's name and phone number. And in 96, when I did my show, that's all you had. There was the beginning of the internet, this and that, but I had everybody's contact information, everybody's bead in 3 pages on Ornament magazine and Lapidary Journal. And from day one, I wanted it to be about the people that chose to believe me that we could have a good show. And we called it the Best Bead Show because, everybody kept saying, God, the talent you got here, what are you going to call this thing? And it was the best. That first year, we had a jazz quartet followed by a string orchestra. We had catered food for 1,000. I had the 4 spotlights up in the air where they rotate, did all this sort of stuff. There was Paul Troutman with North Star Glass, Robert Liu from Ornament, Homer Hoyt from Glasscraft. There was maybe 15 people that were the mainstay of our industry in 1996 if you're a glass maker or a glass seller. And I had them with all these sashes, that said their name and title. My mom had a sash that said official show mom. I had a huge stretch limo that went and picked up all these dignitaries at their hotels and drove them around the parking lot. I told the driver, don't just drive straight to the front door. Make them go around a few times so everybody said that Louis bought a limo, and then drop them off. And it became quite well attended. A lot of people were just blown away. And that was at the Southwest Music Center, which is in a bad area of Tucson. At the end of the show, we had Keith Kreider in his van, and George O'Grady, Kevin O'Grady, myself, a bunch of people hung out like through the night in this area that was barbed wired in every night and locked in with security. And we would be there working glass at night, and all these crackheads were all wandering around just like Walking Dead, man. It was just a hoot. We're in there behind them, and it's like, you know, it is like really weird working glass with all these zombie guys looking at you. So we did the show there 2 years, and then we moved it to the Howard Johnsons for 2 years, and then the Keno Veterans Memorial Community Center, which is a beautiful facility. And when that became finished in 2000, in the year 2000, 1999, the woman who ran the facility, her daughter collected beads and did bead stringing. And she said, you ought to invite that guy at the Howard Johnson to have the bead show over here. So that's how we ended up at the Keno building. So that's kind of a long way about how the bead show became. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah. I wish I would have been there in that time zone. I didn't get there till 2003.
Well, I was still there with the Best Bead Show.
Yeah, I did get to right at the very end. And so.
And I hope that my information is posted somewhere there, either with my Facebook thing. I think Hannah did something.
Yep, Hannah's been putting it all in here, and then we will also put more in the event listing on the Facebook page too. So anybody that sees it will be able to follow it all. And we've got your Facebook, we've got your Instagram. We want people to find you because your work is so cool.
Well, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. And as soon as I know how to download the app for your society, and I can I'll post some of the tutorials that I do, or I'll post pictures of new stuff, or if you say, hey, what do you have, Louis? But if you're interested in anything that you need, bead related or whatever, just let me know. From this lecture today, if there's things you saw in the bead trays there, just say, can you send me a picture of the borosilicate beads, or one you curve, or those ones that were real shiny, or the ones that glow in the dark, stuff like that. Just let me know what you want. And then it's best with me on Facebook for me to send a short video, less than a minute, followed by some still pictures of the same areas in the video. And that's the easiest way for me to give you an overview on video, and then specific pictures on pictures, and then tell me what you're interested in, and then I can do a video of it in my hand so that you can see it really well. And I generally just take PayPal for payment. If you need anything other than beads, whatever, I can get anything out for Father's Day or throughout the year. Just remind me that you're the society member and you can get 20% off. If you need something for next Christmas, remind me you're a society member and I can still give you 20% off or more. So just remind me and try and keep me honest.
Absolutely. And yeah, I'll be inviting you to our private group, and then we have a public page too. So we have both, two different pages. So then when you see that invitation, then accept it, and you can post on either the private group or the public page, anything that you want, and we would love to see, and so that we can share. That's half the reason how we get new members is by, posting all sorts of wonderful thing on our public UMBS page. And they're like, well, I want to join all that fun. And so it's, this has really been a treat, and we really appreciate you sharing your time, your expertise, and artistic viewpoints with us.
Okay. Well, thank you for letting me come.
Hannah, can you send me his email address for the membership?
It's right. Yeah, we will. It's right. Oh, wait a minute. No, that's the normal Facebook. But I think I did it already, but I will in his payment. And any other?
Louis, can you also send me your address? Send it. So just email it to me if you would. Okay.
Or you can
is this Rochelle? Yeah.
It was Hannah, and you can put it in our chat. So, but in order,
whatever.
send you payment, we need your personal, your mailing address too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll send you my PO box. I run everything through that.
Super. Super duper.
Okay.
And everybody says, thanks for a great presentation. Thanks for so much fun. And some people are really bummed they missed you in Tucson. They didn't get there before 2015.
Yeah, it was a good show. It was such a good show.
And so, but it looks like you're not done yet. 51 years and still
No.
going lamp working. So you got a whole lot of life left in you.
I'm planning on it.
Thank you
Okay.
so much, Louis.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
We'll
you
see
so
ya.
much. All
Bye.
right. Bye.